What is up, guys? Welcome back to another patch video. Now today we're going through patch 9.14 and this patch is massive. So if it seems like I'm rushing through anything at a certain point, then by all means ask me more about it in the comments down below. But there is about 17-18 updates on champions here, plus other new features, other new aspects to the game entirely, and it's about the biggest patch I've seen in a good few years. So if there's any other questions you got, then please put in the comments and subscribe to see any more content from me as well. But without further ado, let's jump into this ridiculous size patch. Now the first thing I want to talk about is the brand new death recap. Now this new death recap basically breaks down where the damage comes from to you, so it tells you what's magic damage, what's physical damage, like who's killed you, what they've used to kill you, how long you've been CC'd for, stuff like that. And I think this is a great new feature. I think this is a great new thing to basically have in the game, because it'll tell you, especially if you're playing tanks or off tanks or something like that, because it'll tell you exactly what you need to be building resistances for and exactly who you should be focusing in fights as well more, because it'll tell you who is actually doing the damage to you, so you're not tunneling the wrong champion when you're going into these fights either. So I'll move on to the first champion, or I'm going to break it down more into sort of sections, because they've added a few new aspects to the game. So the first section I want to talk about is shield counters, which is a brand new thing. So the first champion I'll have a look at in this brand new shield counters category is Blitzcrank. So we've completely overhauled the W and the ult itself. So the W move speed is now 20% to 40% from 70% to 90%. The duration is also 1 second lower. It no longer has a slow decay, but it gives less attack speed. Now I know this sounds like a massive nerf, but it has a brand new aspect to it. It can be cast up to 3 times, and each time you do so, it refreshes the duration and it stacks the move speed. But at the end, for each time that you have cast it, Blitz is rooted for 1 second, so if you cast it 3 times, he's rooted for 3 seconds. Now moving on to the ult. The ult is now called Hardwire, and the cooldown is 90 seconds to 30 seconds from 60 seconds to 30 seconds. So it's a bit longer in the early game, but it's the same in the late game. It has a brand new active though. The active destroys shields and clears movement impairing effects on Blitz. Now I'm assuming this will work on his own brand new route, but at the same time destroying shields is such a big aspect, especially for a support, because you're up against a Karma, a John or a Lulu. You will instantly destroy those shields and unroot yourself. So next up is Renekton in the shield counters section. Now Renekton has basically just got something new added, where basically on his W now, if you have 50 Fury empowered on it, then it will destroy all existing shields on the target that you hit with your W. Now this gives him brand new kind of lane matchup counters, makes him stronger in a lot of matchups, and also makes him a lot better for diving onto those back ADCs. So I could see him moving up those tier lists quite quickly, because this is a really nice buff to a champion that hasn't had many changes in a long time. Now moving on to one of the biggest changes of this patch in Swain. So they changed the passive completely, so instead of getting the soul fragments as you do now, it will permanently increase your max HP by 5, and each time you get one of these souls, it restores your mana by 4 to 7%. The Q's been changed too, so you no longer get the mana refund, but bolts always pierce through minions and stop at champions. The cooldown is now 7.5 seconds to 2.5 from 7 seconds to 3 seconds. And the radius has been lowered, but the angle between bolts is bigger. Now the Q change here basically means Swain has wave clear, which he's only really had his ult for, but now his Q is a viable wave clear. And talking about his ult has a lot of changes too. So it's remove the restrictions on recast, gains 5 health per soul during his ultimate, drains from all units including stealth champions, remove damage per fragment, added damage equal to how much health he has drained, up to 200 to 400 plus 100% AP. Now I know that's a lot of numbers, that's a lot of talking, but what does it mean? It basically means the longer you're in ult, the more health you drain whilst you're in ult, the more damage it deals when you finish it and during it. Now this basically means that Swain, for me personally, has kind of turned into a very mana heavy champ, but he now has wave clear, he now has a lot higher damages, he kind of has this ongoing stacking like Cho'Gath has with his HP and his passive. Now, Swain to me seems like he may massively jump up that tier list if it's played correctly and if people figure out how to do so with that. Now, I'm going to have to move on, but I'd love to talk about it a bit more, but there's so much in this patch and it might be a 20-minute video already. So next I'm moving on to another new little category in Truesight. Now Truesight already exists in the game, and it's that thing where basically, so Corky bombs, Caitlyn traps, stuff like that, where it basically permanently reveals someone. So even if they go into Fog of War or they go invisible, you can still see them. But they're given Truesight to 3 new champions. So they're giving it to Karma's W, the root for that, LeBlanc's E, the root for that, and Morgana's ult, the root for that. Now this basically just adds new utility to all 3 of these champs kits. Now personally I don't think Karma needed anything else in her kit because she already has a lot in her kit and she is already doing quite well with that. But basically when you bind and root with any of these champions, you now gain Truesight on the champions that you have done so on. So moving on to the next section. Now next we're moving on to supports, and I want to start with Lux. So Lux's shield has the double effect removed. So the double effect is when you throw it out and then it comes back and you get shields off both. Now you only get shields when you throw it out. But the amount is slightly up, but the max shield is now only 100 to 260 plus 60% from 150 to 330 plus 60%. But at the same time the ult is kind of getting a little buff. It's removed the reset mechanic, but the cooldown's been lowered to 80 to 40 from 80 to 60, and the AP ratio is up 5%. Honestly, for me, when I saw these, I thought like 2 weeks ago when we talked about Pike basically being pushed out the solo lane into support. I honestly think Lux is being pushed out of support back into a solo lane because the AP ratio is up on the ult and the kind of shields for others is kind of down again. So I think honestly we'll see a bit more of Lux mid, and I think she's going to be a lot stronger there as well now that she can ult every 40 seconds in late game. Now talking about Pike, he has some more changes coming in again this patch. So they've changed the E, so it now stuns non-champions again, but does not deal damage to them. Now they've done a big overhaul on the ult, which kind of makes me question where they even want Pike to even play in the game anymore, because the damage changed to 250 to 450 plus 200% AD and 200% lethality from 250 to 550 plus 80% AD plus 150% lethality. But there's a new aspect to it. It only deals 50% less damage if it doesn't kill the target. Now for me, if they're trying to push him back into support, you're not going to be wanting him to kill the target, so why put that as an aspect? But then if you put him in a solo lane, you're kind of killing his solo lane by the fact that his E doesn't damage minions. So he's a bit up in the air, and I don't really know whether they even want him to go. And by all these changes, they may even be killing the champ out of the meta entirely. So we'll see what happens this patch with Pike. Right, on to another one of our big changes, and this is a massive one in Tahm Kench. Now I know a lot of you will have been hoping this for a while because Tahm Kench has been S tier for around 3 or 4 different patches now, but there's a massive change to him. So I'll get through it all as quick as possible. So the passive does not deal bonus damage based on stacks, but damage has changed to 2.5% of his max HP from 1.5%. The Q cooldown is up to 8 to 6 seconds from 8 to 4 seconds. Consumes stacks of passive if he's stunned an enemy. Slow amount lowered to 30 to 50% from 50 to 70%, but slow length is up 1 second and stun duration is up 1 second. W does not near sight enemies eaten or stunned briefly. Can now be used on red on blue buff. E damage as stored grey health lowered from 80 to 100% to 50 to 60%, but heal changed to 11 to 3 from 6 seconds. And cooldown starts when shield expires instead of on cast. And also he can no longer stun then eat an opponent, he has to choose whether he eats or stuns an opponent. Now there's a lot here. So I'm going to try and explain as best as I can how this will affect Tahm Kench. So to me, honestly, it seems like they're trying to make him more of a Nunu style character by adding in that kind of can eat blue and red buff and making him more of a CC machine rather than a solo machine, because he can only do sort of 1, maybe 2 CCs rather than a full CC, and he can no longer do the extended trades because he doesn't have the effectiveness of the grey health. Also, with the fact of Renekton now having this shield counter, it would destroy his E as soon as he uses it, so I feel like he's kind of being forced away from top lane, but then Blitz has one in bot lane now, so he's going to get killed in bot lane. So honestly, I could see him being a kind of Nunu style tanky jungler with a lot of CC to his kit, protection still for his carries in fights, but more fitting into that role than where he is currently. But this is a massive change to him, so I think it's a case of let him hit the patch and then see where he lands after that. So next I want to move on to anti-movement, anti-mobility, sort of abilities like that. So the first one is Poppy. Her W now grounds and reduces the opponent's move speed by 25%. For 2 seconds afterwards. The cooldown has been reduced to 24 to 12 seconds from 24 to 16 seconds, so you get it a lot more in that late game. And the duration has been lowered by 0.5 seconds, but the move speed's up by 5%. So this is a really nice change for her, and it makes that W a lot more of a threat to kind of ganks and stuff like that. Also, they have changed Ahri's charm. It now interrupts dashes again, so it used to a while back. They removed it from her kit, but it has been changed back to do that again. And there is another single sort of mobility change to a champion, but it is a lot bigger, and it is Cassiopeia. Now Cassiopeia's had a few changes to go through. So the W minimum cast range is down to 100 from 500, which is a big change. The cooldown's been increased to 24 to 12 seconds from 18 to 16 seconds, and the slow's been lowered to 20 to 60% from 40 to 80%, which does sound like a big nerf to her. But at the same time, the E has been changed for the good. So the E's healing has been changed to 13 to 25% of your AP. And also there's a new effect to it, so you also get 25% effective versus minions and small monsters, and the cost has been changed to 50 flat from 40 to 60, so it's a lot better in the late game for her. And also with the new AP ratio too, in that late game as well, you're also able to kind of get, I think the maths works out at 250 HP healed per Twin Fang cast, which is an insane amount of healing. If you're spamming that quite a lot in a fight and you're getting the kind of poison down to do so, you can do a lot with it. Now the next thing I want to talk about is healing reduction. So it's been added to Kled, so when he pulls an enemy, all healing is reduced by 60% for 5 seconds, and Katarina's healing reduction is now 60% from 40%. Now I know these don't sound like big things, but you have to remember that our current mechanic for healing reduction is Grievous Wounds. Now Grievous Wounds is only 40%. Now if you think about how effective that is at times, you have to realise how big of buffs these are for these champions, and also it can really change Kled's laning phase versus these kind of heavy healing, kind of long skirmishing top laners such as like Aatrox and Garen, Volibear. All their healing is reduced by 60% for 5 seconds after he lands that Q, so those matchups will be very, very good for him now. Now before moving on to our last big change, I want to go over a few of the minor changes. So first of all, Fizz. His passive damage reduction has been changed to 5 plus 1% AP against all sources of damage from 4 to 14 reduction scaling. And also Rides has had a few bug fixes, so there won't be much changing with him. Also there's one more little change to a champion, so the other minor change is Leona. So she has a new aspect to her W, so it reduces incoming damage by 8 to 24, but the armor and magic resist has been lowered to 20 to 40 from 25 to 65 and 20 to 60. Also, her ult no longer gives the empowered autos. Now for a champion that's not doing too well or too bad, it seems really weird that back-to-back patches have seen the need to make tweaks to Leona. So moving on to the last of the major changes in Akali. So her QAP ratio is up to 80% from 70%. with a W cooldown now changed from 25 seconds from 25 to 13 seconds, but the cooldown starts on cast, not after. Energy restore is up from 40 to 80 to a flat 80, but the duration cannot be extended anymore, and the stealth type has been changed to invisibility, which is a massive change, because that means everything that we were saying earlier about the Truesight can now affect her in the Shroud. The E base damage has been lowered but given an AP ratio, and her ult cooldown has been increased to 120 to 100 from 100 to 70. So overall it sees her kind of building a more AP build, and also kind of she gets a bit of a better early game slightly, and her late game's still strong, so it kind of just balances it across the game rather than her having one strong aspect and struggling at one point or another. But I want to see how this Truesight kind of change affects her and her matchups entirely. We've finally got through everything that I wanted to show you. Now, I said that this was a massive patch and there was a lot to go through, so I'm sorry if I rushed some of it. If you want to hear any more about it, you can comment down below and I can make another video on more detailed stuff, or I can just comment back to you and let you know more on what you need to know about. If you have made it all the way to the end with me, then do comment down below and let me know, and I'll make sure to love that comment from you. And please subscribe to see when the next patch update comes out and any other videos from me. If you're wondering about teamfight tactics updates, anything like that, then I put a video about that out yesterday, and a video about the new champ coming to teamfight tactics the day before that. But this was focused on the champs and the changes to the regular game. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Please subscribe. Thanks again.